morning, everyone. How is everyone doing today on this Thursday? It's almost Friday. Very happy it's almost Friday. My neighbor has this chainsaw out, if you can hear that. I'm not sure if you can hear that or not, but that's what that noise is behind me. So usually this is where I go and invite people. But I actually kind of watched back one of the videos the other day and noticed that when I invite people, you guys have to sit there and listen to like click, 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 click. It makes a weird, funny noise. So I'm going to try something else. I'm going to try... that didn't work. So I'm actually on my phone, and I was trying to find a way to invite people this way, but it doesn't look like that's going to work either. That's okay. It is what it is. I just didn't really want you guys to have to sit here and listen to that tapping sound. So I'm going to try to, it may look funny, but I'm going to try to hold the screen a little bit and see if that alleviates some of that clicking sound. Anyway, always a learning process here. I've always got something, just as soon as I figure out one thing, I realize there's something else going on, but you know, each time we get a little better, and eventually we'll have it down to a science. So I'm trying to hold the screen, so if I look kind of funny, that's because I'm trying to hold the screen here. But I'm hoping that will alleviate that tapping sound that was coming through before, because what was happening, I think, was the monitor was moving just enough that it was making like a clinking tapping sound. So don't want you guys to have to listen to that, so I'm just trying to hold it, and then I will go back and listen to it and see if that alleviates the problem. Or you guys can send me a comment, say nope, don't hear it this time, or yes, still do hear it, and let me know, because I was not aware that it was making that sound, so I apologize. And come on, computer. The one good thing about we have lots and lots of members coming in, and we always have some that drop back out too, but it takes so long to invite. So if anybody knows of an easier way that like I can send out like a mass invite, I tried to start a group chat and send out just a message that right before I went live to remind people, and what happened was people were having conversations in there, and so when that happens, everybody in the group was getting, you know, alerts every time somebody was chatting in there, and so people were leaving the group. So that really wasn't very productive as far as me trying to get them messages that when I was going live. So if there's another way that anybody knows, what I was going to try to do on my phone was, people, you see that little thing that says start a watch party, and but what it was going to do was, it was actually not going to put it in the group. Hi PM, morning. It wasn't going to put it in our group. It was actually just sending it to my friend's page, my personal page. So that's not what I want to do. So that theory isn't going to work. So it's almost Friday. I've been working overtime like crazy, and I've been so tired. And so I'm just really looking forward to the weekend. My grandson has his birthday party Sunday. His birthday's actually today. He's turning 3. So happy birthday to him. And just smudge my hands real quick. Smudge the phone a little bit. All right, so we've done that. And let's light our candle. We're working again still this month with the 3 goddesses. So that's the candle that came with my tool set. Oh, pop it. So we'll light that. And before we get started, we will do our new chakra card. So this is the one we pulled last Thursday. So we will put that back in the deck. So we're going to shuffle. And again, not really anybody particular. Just shuffling the cards. If it resonates with you, then maybe it was pulled for you. But not pulling for anybody specific. All right, what did we pull? We pulled the No Worries card. So let's see what that is. Remember that protection is your divine birthright. Ground your energy into Gaia with a vibrant garnet red grounding cord that you send from between your hips down into the depths of her sacred womb. Send all of your fear, worries, concerns down there, down that cord, and feed them back to the earth where they can be transformed and transmuted, returning to you as usable white light. So we've talked about this in another video, the kind of the story of the Pachamama, where she feeds off your negative energy. That is like her food, her sustenance, and she eats it, and then she regurgitates it back to us as good, positive energy. So a lot of times when we're telling people to ground or visualize that grounding, to send your worries to Pachamama, they're like, they feel guilty because of that. And it's the story is don't. That's like her food. That's what she's consuming, and she's gonna eat it all, and then she's gonna give it back to us in a better form. So don't ever feel guilty about like I have a visualization that I do when I'm grounding of light coming up through the bottom of my feet, kind of pushing out anything that's negative, and then the negative comes kind of in my visualization. It's like a black goopy tar coming out of my fingers and dripping back down to Gaia, to Pachamama, and you know, and she's gonna soak that up, and then when it's time, it's gonna come back to me as white light again. So don't ever feel guilty about sending Pachamama or Gaia or whatever you want to refer her to, the source, the negative, because she's going to eat it right up like a snack and send it back to us. So, all right, so we've done our card, and I want to take a picture of it real quick so I can put it up on the group, because if I don't do it now, I'll forget. Okay, so we've done that, so I'll get that up on there for you. All right, so morning. Got some iced tea in my little skull cup this morning. Wasn't feeling like hot tea this morning. So what are we talking about today? So we are going to talk about Beltaine. Some of you may have heard of Beltaine. Right now, at least my Facebook page with my friends and people that I'm associated with, my Facebook page right now is pretty much flooded with Beltaine memes and pictures and upcoming events and all kinds of stuff. So that's very exciting for me, but a lot of you probably don't know what Beltaine is. So today we're going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to go over quickly a couple of ways you can celebrate it, but next week on Tuesday I'm going to go over it a little bit more for you. So there'll be a part 1 and kind of a part 2 of it. So Beltaine is on May 1st. It's when it's actually celebrated. A lot of people will probably know it. Now it's just called May Day. And I don't even know if like that's really a holiday that's even celebrated to it anymore. But I remember my mom telling me about making May Day baskets, and so and I'm sure most of you have heard about dancing around the maypole. So that is all Beltaine. That all came from Beltaine. So Beltaine, in the northern hemisphere, depending on where you live, I don't think I have anybody that's from other countries in the group, but depending on where you live, you're going to be in a different season, so it may be a different holiday for you than it is for us here. But right now here, in the northern hemisphere, we are celebrating Beltaine. Beltaine is one of the oldest Celtic holidays that there is, that we know of. There could be something else that we don't know of, but it's the oldest one that we know of. So basically, the story is that it's a love story, really. So that's kind of neat that it's a love story. But the lore, the history, the story, whatever you want to call it, kind of goes that this on Beltaine on May 1st is when the god and goddess are reunited and they're married. So over the winter, they've had time they're apart and they've had time to mature. And now on May 1st, they're going to come back together and they're going to be married. So it would have been a time that a lot of the ladies and lords would have been married. To be married during the time of Beltaine was very symbolic, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. So again, it's kind of follows that whole what we talked about for Ostara and for Easter, that it's really just this whole springtime has basically the same meanings. So it's all about rebirth or birth, fertility, sex, passion, all of those things, because like we said, we've talked about, all the flowers are starting to come up, all the trees are starting to bud, all the animals are coming out of hibernation, having their babies. So it's again, it's still all on that same idea, even though we just had Ostara and Easter, which are also in that same idea. But Beltaine is a little bit different. So Beltaine is a fire festival, usually. Well, it was then. In most places now, if they're celebrating Beltaine, they have some sort of fire festival. Fire is very important to the pagans and the Celtics. So it's all about the rebirth after the long cold winter is basically what it comes down to. So it also is celebrating the balance of divine masculine and divine feminine. The Celtics had a lot of gods and goddesses. It wasn't just one, they had lots. At one point, when I was first starting to learn about the Celtic paganism, I was like, I'm going to learn every god and goddess there is. Oh my gosh, there's no way. Every time I thought I'd found them all, I found some more. So it's very hard to know all of them. They had gods and goddesses for everything. So yeah, it's very, very hard to not only learn them all and know them all, just to even find them all. I'm sure somewhere out there is a book that I just haven't found yet. But I will someday, I guess, when timing is right. Yeah, so it's the time of maturity and just coming together for that. So as always with the, the Celtics and the pagans, there was always a festival. There was always a big party, lots of food, lots of drinking, lots of wine. So typically they would have danced around a big bonfire naked after lots of food and lots of drinking. I'm not doing that. We may have a bonfire in the backyard, and maybe I'll have a glass of wine, but there will be no naked dancing around the fire pit for me. If you want to, have at it. So one of the things they did, like I said, it was also like there usually would have been a wedding or 2 or 10, who knows, during the time of Beltaine. And I've talked about this before, but I just want to go over it again. Like when these holidays were happening, these festivals, because they weren't really called holidays back then. When these were happening, it wasn't like a day. They didn't pick a day. Like now we say it's May 1st, because they didn't really have calendars and things like we do. They just went by the sun and the seasons and the moon and all of those things. That is how they knew what time of year was what and what was going on. And so Beltaine, as well as many other of the holidays that they had, were not really on one specific day every year, because they didn't keep track like we do. They didn't have a calendar on their phone that Google sent them reminders. So they had to go by the sun, the moon, the seasons, and things of that sort. So it may have been on different days, depending on how the seasons were. Also, it wasn't like a one-day celebration. Most of their celebrations were, several days long. And I don't even want to really use the word a week long, because again, they didn't really know what a week was. They didn't have, the same, like they didn't use the same terminology that we do now. They didn't have the same kind of calendars and things that we do now. And they didn't really care. They didn't really care if it was Monday or Friday. So it wasn't the same for them. But it would have been celebrated around this time of year, and it would have been celebrated for several days and not just necessarily on May 1st. So just kind of so you guys have an idea, there would have been several days of preparing, then there would have been several days of actually having the festival, and then there would have been some days of rest, hangover time, things of that sort. And especially if there was a lot of marriages going on at that time as well, it would have been even more celebrating and dancing and drinking and all those things. But one of the things that they did do, again, because the holiday really was to honor the abundance and the growth and the fertility and the sex, all those things that go together for springtime, one of the things they did was not only have a bonfire, which, Celtics love to have their fire festivals. I love bonfires. I don't tend to dance around them too much, but I love to have my bonfires. I have a huge bonfire pit in the backyard here. That's all set up, decorated, but someday maybe I'll take you out there. But right now it's still wet and yucky and snowy. But one of the things they did was they would have two massive poles, probably logs, that they would light on fire. And they would have all their herds walk through the two poles. And it was kind of to bless them, to bless the herd, to honor that fertility, the sex, the babies, all those things, because that was how they survived, was through their herds and through their farming. So, they wanted to make sure that their herds repopulated, so that, they could butcher them and eat them and have them, but they want to continue to have that. And it's not like they can go down to Aubuchon's and order some more chickens. So, they really had to make sure that they were maintaining that repopulation with all of their livestock. So they would march them through these two poles to honor that. The men, if they were single, would jump over the bonfire in hopes to find a wife. Women would jump over the bonfire if they were trying to have a baby. So they are trying to increase the fertility by jumping over the fire. I know it sounds silly, but that's what they did. So if you're out there and you're a man and you're trying to find a partner, go ahead and jump over your bonfire. And if you're a woman and you're hoping to have a baby, you can also go ahead and jump over your bonfire. Make it kind of small though, just to be safe. I don't want you getting hurt. I don't want you catching on fire and then be like, Julie told me to jump over the fire. Do it safely. Don't make a huge bonfire that you have to get back 10 feet and get a running start to jump over and all that. You don't have to do that. You could even simply light a candle and step over it, because that symbolism is still the same. It's you going over the flame. So you could simply just, even if you had a nice little plate and you wanted to put 2 or 3 little pillar candles on it and light them and step over it, you could do that. Don't wear your baggy pajamas doing it though, Don't want to hear about all these people catching on fire because I told them to go jump over a bonfire. But yeah, it is typically celebrated with fire. And again, it is all related back to the same as, there's the doggy over there moving. It's all the same as the Ostara and the Easter, celebrating that whole, rebirth of everything. And you're like, well, why did they celebrate so many times? First of all, they were Celtic, and any reason to have a celebration and fire and drink was awesome. But it was really important to them. Not so much for us anymore, because if we want steak, we go to the grocery store. If we want our vegetables, we go to the grocery store. They did not have that luxury. So they really did have a lot of festivals that were honoring, the whole fertility and growth and abundance, because, they, at the end of the year, when we get down to Samhain, which is, most of you know, is Halloween, when we get to Samhain, they've had to do all their planting, all of their harvesting. They've had to have their livestock come through and give birth to lots of babies, so that they can survive the coming winter. So as soon as winter is done for them, they are on a mission to go to get ready for next winter. That is, the whole mission. So even during the winter, they're thinking about things that they need to do in the spring, because once spring comes, it's like ready, set, go. We need to do everything we can do to make sure we have enough food, so when we get to Samhain, we have enough food to make it through the winter. And again, they didn't really know how long their winters were going to be. They didn't know how brutal their winters were going to be. They didn't have the weather guy telling them that a storm was coming and they need to go to the grocery store and get bread and milk. So they had to do this all summer. They had to just, plan and gather as much as they could possibly gather in hopes that they would make it through the winter. So it was very important to them. So this time of spring, of rebirth and fertility and growth and abundance and all of that was very, very important, because it was the start of their whole getting ready for next winter. So it was very important to them. Now it's, for us, like I said, it seems kind of trivial, but back then it was definitely very important. So they really had to spend all their time planning to make sure they had enough to feed everyone for the next winter. So that was Beltane. Just real quick, I'm going to go over a couple of things that you could do, but we're going to go over it a little bit more detail on Tuesday. But one of the things, if you wanted to start kind of getting ready for that, is you could decorate the house in flowers, which again, that was kind of the same thing that we did for Easter and for Ostara, is decorate in brightly colored flowers. You want to bring in all those colors of spring if you can. This one I've always kind of wanted to try, and I've never done it, but you could craft your own maypole. That's kind of neat, but I've never done it, but I've always wanted to. You could just build a fire, and like I said, if you don't have a fire pit, or you live in a place where you can't have a fire pit or anything like that, there's always a way. Like you can light some candles. Even if you had one of those little fake propane fireplace things or something like that. In our living room, we have a fireplace here, but it's not real fire. But the symbolism is still there. So there's always a way to work around that. And again, going back to the men who jumped over the fire to find their wife, if that's something you're looking to do too, you may want to get either purple or green candles if you want to work on that. So you would want to light them. This says the evening before and the evening of May 1st, but to me, just like this whole, next week or so is a good time to work on that. And to have that kind of that intention and that visualization. I can never get that word. I don't know why. So, if you're going to only do it a couple nights, it's the night before and the night of Beltane. But, if you want and put in the time, because it's not that hard to light a candle and sit there for a second with the candle, you could do it from now through till May 1st. If that's something you wanted to do. So purple or green candle. But we'll go over those a little bit more on Tuesday. You guys know I love to give you the little lists of things you can do. So we will be talking about that. The other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is I told you guys Tuesday that Pluto went retrograde, and it's going to be in retrograde until October 4th, so it's a long one. And it's a time of mass transformation and lessons. So kind of be prepared for that. I did put up a little meme for you on the group for that. But we've also got Saturn, who is going retrograde on the 29th. So in a couple of days. And that one is going to be in retrograde, not quite so long, but for a while. It's going to be in retrograde until September 18th. So this is a time of structure and boundaries and rules and regulations and stuff. So it kind of does fit into the Pluto going retrograde in a time of lessons. So they kind of are going to go together. But the Saturn is going to kind of reaffirm what works and what doesn't work. And again, for me, that kind of does tie back into the Pluto of your lessons. So you're getting your lessons of what does and doesn't work. So to me, them being in retrograde at the same time is actually, I think, kind of cool to work together for what they're both going retrograde in for. And like I said, I did put a little meme picture thing up for Pluto, so I'll see if I can find one today for Saturn for you as well and get that up there. As always, if you have any questions, just pop on and let me know. If you want me to pull a card for you, I'm always willing to do that. Just remember, if you ask me like today at noontime, it's going to have to be later tonight because I don't carry my cards with me. When I do a card pull, I like to sit here. I like to light my candles and, you know, the whole 9 yards. I don't just take my deck out and pull a card. I like to have it a little bit more, I don't know if I want to use the word ceremonial, but I guess that's the closest word that will fit. So I like to take a moment to just kind of ground myself and center myself before I pull a card for you. If I pull a card for you, I typically like you to have a question, but I don't want you to tell me a question because I don't want to feel like my own instinct, my own opinion is going into the what I'm telling you. So I ask people that to have your question, but don't tell me your question. And then when I give you my intuitive readings, I guess, then you can ask me questions from there if you don't understand and things like that. But I do ask that you initially don't tell me your question because my mothering side, I'll say, likes to kick in and get in there, and I don't want my answer to you to be influenced by my own feelings or opinions. So that's why I say that. All right, and so I think that is it. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be, but we have my grandson's birthday party on Sunday, so hopefully it'll be nice for that. And thanks for popping on, and I'll see you guys Tuesday for more Beltane talk, and have a great weekend. Thanks for popping on, and remember, be kind. Your kindness could change your day and someone else's as well. Thanks. Love you guys. Bye.